Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cybermoto. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope you're enjoying your time. Sorry I've been gone for a while. I have been busy doing things, but something came up and I wanted to really discuss it. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. Start with some overarching things. Let me open my helmet up a little bit because it's hot today. CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike had a massive update or a massive outage caused by an update, a content update. We'll get into kind of what that means versus a normal update here in a little bit, but caused one of the largest IT outages ever seen. Very, very interesting, very big, very, I've never seen an outage quite this widespread. We've seen outages that have very similar pieces, but nothing quite to this scale. And there's a reason for that. We'll get into it and we'll discuss more. But I just wanted to go ahead and film an intro saying sorry that I haven't been as active. Again, been busy doing some personal things, working on channels, things like that. And yeah, but that's it. You know, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So let's go ahead and start on kind of the question on everybody's mind. That question being, what happened? I mean, like, what? How did this happen? How did something like this cause this many issues? So, kind of some background. CrowdStrike, for those of you who don't know, is one of the largest EDR companies. And what an EDR means is an endpoint detection and response platform. If you don't quite know what an EDR, what endpoint detection and response means, endpoint is your system, right? Your computer, your Mac, your Windows, your gaming computer, whatever it is, your iPhone is considered an endpoint. And what an EDR does is it detects and responds to threats that it has found on your system. So when something like CrowdStrike, it's one of the leading corporate or enterprise EDR platforms in the world. What that means is most companies, government, enterprise, airlines, banks, things like that, they're all using CrowdStrike. They're all utilizing its expertise in endpoint detection and response to better secure their machines. Now, an EDR is very hooked into the machine. It needs to know everything that's going on, from login events to errors to processes that are running, and this requires a lot of without making it sound, so it's not a bad thing, but it requires a lot of hooks, right? It has to make sure that it stays on your system and persists in order to best secure it. And with something like that, when it has a lot of hooks, it has a lot of built-in kind of control over the operating system. Now, that, as we all have seen now, can cause issues when things don't work. So CrowdStrike, being one of the leading EDR platforms, leading EDR companies, is constantly updating what's called their content. So a content update. And because adversaries are constantly evolving, constantly creating new threats, and as those threats are seen, these content updates get put out in order to better defend or be able to detect these new and emerging threats. And that's what this Friday update was. For those of you who are in IT or getting into IT, there's a phrase that you either know or will come to know. Oh, that was a big ass jump, or bump in the road. There's a phrase that you will come to know called change blackouts, or no change Fridays, no change Mondays. It's a pretty well respected or well understood concept in IT that we don't make changes on a Friday or a Monday, the end of the week or the beginning of the week, or on sometimes even on a weekend, depending on usually critical infrastructure gets changed on the weekend, especially things like network, because it creates a minimum outage, unless you're a 24-hour company like healthcare. Now, with this content update coming out on a Friday, it's an automated update process to keep the tool fresh and keep it knowledgeable about emerging threats and common issues, right? So this content update had a software bug in it. And this software bug caused Windows machines to do something called B-sodding. BSOD, B-sod, pretty common terms that you'll hear. What that means is a blue screen of death. And if you've never seen it before, I'll go ahead and have it popped up right here. What a blue screen of death is a blue screen when your Windows start up saying, we've encountered a problem, we're gathering all the data that we can, and then we're going to restart your machine, and it has a little percentage. Wow, that building's coming together quick. And when you get these B-sods, typically it will restart itself and then it won't have any issues. Now, where the issue kind of arose or persisted with CrowdStrike's is that it had what was called a B-sod loop. Meaning every time it would run or it would restart, it would hit another B-sod. And so that crippled machines. And any machine that's on the Windows operating system was completely crippled in a restart loop, and there's not a lot of ways to fix that. When you happen to have a B-sod loop like that, the only way to fix that is what we might call boots on the ground, or an IT person actually going on site, making some changes, booting into something called Windows Safe Mode, and creating changes that would fix the B-sod. So it's a continuous error that's causing the Windows operating system to crash, and the only way to fix it is to be hands-on. Now, where the issue comes in with these B-sods or something like CrowdStrike, I mean, we see them everywhere. Applications cause it, other EDR platforms and security tools cause it, Windows has caused it multiple times. But where this issue comes in is when it becomes this B-sod loop, and this loop is being caused by a security tool that is so widespread, going back to CrowdStrike being one of the largest EDR platforms. Well, with it being the largest, it's on millions, if not billions, of computers. And that ranges anywhere from government to critical infrastructure, airlines, banks, schools, hospitals, I mean, everywhere. You see it all over the place. And all of these places are experiencing a critical outage. I mean, we're talking completely crippling. And so it's a major deal. And it's all caused by a software bug that causes something to be sod. I mean, if this was any other company that didn't have as wide of a reach or as wide of an impact, we wouldn't be hearing about it. It would be, oh, it's just a software bug where we have a patch in place, we'll get it fixed, and that's the end of it. But with something as widespread and as far-reaching as CrowdStrike is, it's going to make, national, international headlines. Now, this is also the perfect time to explain that I am by no means an expert in this. This channel is designed for people who are getting into IT or are new to IT, new to cybersecurity. It's also a passion project for me. One of my favorite things in the cybersecurity space at this current moment is threat intelligence, threat research, and malware reverse engineering. That's a huge thing that I'm a big fan of. And this allows me to put it out there and to do the research and to force myself to learn and study. And then another passion project of mine is riding motorcycles. I love riding motorcycles. So put the two together and this is what we've got. So I am by no means an expert in any of these categories. If you guys would like to learn more, I would go look at people like John Hammond, an absolutely wickedly smart cybersecurity expert. I would say he's a subject matter expert in most things security. I watched a lot of his videos when I was getting into security and still watch a lot of his videos, more on topics that I'm interested in or emerging threats that he makes videos on. But I still catch myself watching his videos all the time. Very entertaining, and explains it in a way kind of like how I'm doing, that newer people or people that are not super familiar with cybersecurity can get involved. Not all of his videos that are that way, but something like this, or he talked about, going back to my previous video, the Apex Legends Global Series hack, he talked about that. He describes these in ways that most people can understand. He's very business minded, so he can talk about it in a business aspect. Now, with that being said, again, I'm by no means an expert. I do have some knowledge being in the industry, but I want to put that out there. This is not designed for the cybersecurity experts. If you guys have any more information or would like to correct anything that I'm wrong on, please feel free to throw it down in the comments. But that's my disclaimer. I am working on continuing to grow my expertise, but at this current moment, by no means would I consider myself an expert in anything. Right now, my main projects are project management and product deployment for security products. So I do build and deploy security products. But when it comes to large scale things like this, I'm still working on my research and my knowledge. Now, going back to CrowdStrike. So with this content update, right, this is not a feature update or anything major that was extremely well vetted. This is a process that has been run countless times, and it has worked without any issues. This one so happened to have caused an outage. And with a company as wide-reaching as CrowdStrike, this outage happened to be something that was a global impact and completely crippled everything. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars in loss, right? Flights have been grounded, airports have been closed, banks haven't been able to process transactions, hospitals have been closed, government has been taken down. I mean, we're seeing this everywhere. We keep seeing new places that are impacted, that are losing tons of money, being a complete outage. All caused by a content update. Now, the CEO of CrowdStrike has come out and said, hey, we are aware of this. A fix has been put into place. There's also a workaround that was out very early into the evening when this was first happening. So this was first reported like 8 p.m. on July 18th. So Thursday night into Friday morning. It was Friday morning in Australia when it was first found, because Australia was the first country that was super widely affected by this. And let me tell you, as a security person, hearing about all of this news in the middle of the night was a scary thing, because, initially, we don't know if it's an attack, this one was not. I should also say that. It was not an attack. This was not a threat. This is just a software bug. We see them all the time. I mean, let's go look at any video game that comes out with a new update. There's bugs all the time, right? Any new video game, oh my God, the bugs are ridiculous. So this was not a threat. This is not something that's going to cripple. I mean, it did cripple infrastructure, but it's not a bug that's going to, bring down the world. But it is going to take a lot of time to recover. Again, when you have these BSODs, especially a BSOD loop like what we were seeing, it takes a lot. As I said earlier, it's boots on the ground. You have IT people having to run out to each machine, boot it into safe mode with networking, delete a file, or pull down the update from CrowdStrike that reverts the update back to its original form, and that's what fixes it. Well, all of these machines that are in this BSOD loop without any networking are not going to get this update. So it is going to be a lot of man hours and manpower to get everything back up and running. I mean, people are working around the clock to get this stuff up, including CrowdStrike support. They have said that they are working directly with customers to ensure full functionality is returned. They have expressed their apology for this update. And things should hopefully return as soon as possible. Again, it's going to be a long road to recovery. Now, what does this mean? I mean, so there's kind of a lot of different ways to look at what this means. There's a positive, there's a negative, and it's ever changing, right? When something like this happens, the public image of a company like CrowdStrike is diminished, is tarnished. because it's like, okay, well, these guys have caused this major outage across the world. Why are we going to trust this company? Now, as someone with some experience with software bugs and with issues, there is also a positive to come out of this. We need to get over to the right as well. There's some positives to come out of this. And what are those positives? I mean, this is going to sound kind of, I guess, optimistic. But typically when you have a company that's facing this large of an issue, it usually doesn't happen again for quite a long time. They will definitely change their process for vetting, which will cause a huge change in how things are operating. And the hope is that we won't see this again for, I mean, quite a while. I'm hoping that we don't see something like this from CrowdStrike or any company for that matter again. Now, that being said, may not always work, but that is the hope. That's the plan. I'm sure CrowdStrike is working on completely revamping and vetting their processes to ensure that nothing like this were to happen again. And that's kind of the positive side of this, or at least the positive outlook that I have and that I hope more people do have. This is a very negative thing. I mean, it crippled governance, it crippled infrastructure, it crippled a ton of things, and seemingly with no way to fix it other than getting boots on the ground. Now, with every negative comes a positive, and that positive being, hopefully it doesn't happen again anytime soon. I am keeping my eye out and hoping that things like this never happen. And kind of the running joke in the security community, to get into a little bit more acronyms for cybersecurity. We've talked about BSOD and EDR. Let's go ahead and talk about the CIA triad. And what the CIA triad is, it's not the CIA, it's not the Central Intelligence Agency. It is a rule for any type of cybersecurity development or any type of product, or the goal of cybersecurity as a whole is to maintain a balance between confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, making sure that only the people who need to have access to a certain piece of information have access to it and nobody else. Your data is confidential. Integrity, making sure data is the same all the way around, that every change is monitored, every piece of data that's adjusted is adjusted by the right person, and that data is maintained. And then availability, making sure that people who need to have access to it have access to it. A running joke in the security community is that the most secure computer, most secure system in the world is the one that people do not have access to. So maxing out on confidentiality and integrity, zero availability. Now, yes, that might be the most secure machine in the world, but it's also the most frustrating to deal with because nobody can access it. Why would I want to store data somewhere that nobody can access? That being said, a joke that makes me laugh and that makes a lot of people laugh right now is that a machine affected by this is probably now the most secure machine out there. Nobody has access to your data because nobody can get to it. Now, kind of a morbid joke, but it's true. That's just the way it works sometimes, unfortunately. Now, going back to kind of what this means, let's talk about the future. Of course, nobody knows the future, but let's talk about some potential options. Now, what's currently going on is people are remediating these machines, and hopefully in the next few days, couple weeks, probably more realistically, everything will be back up and running. The big problem that we're seeing right now is a lot of companies encrypt their drives, and to boot into safe mode to make these adjustments, you have to have a BitLocker recovery key. Well, if the system that stores your BitLocker recovery keys on a Windows machine, you're kind of SOL. And for those of you who don't know, encrypting a drive takes the data and jumbles it. In the easiest way to explain it, takes data, jumbles it up so it can't be easily readable. And they manage this by a thing called BitLocker. And BitLocker is a built-in Windows process that encrypts the drive and maintains a key for de-encryption. Every time you enter your password, it decrypts your drive. And this key is typically stored in a central database, so that way if you have issues with your machine or it can't decrypt itself, this BitLocker recovery key is there to decrypt your machine. So that's kind of one of the big things we're seeing right now that's going to take a long time, is getting these BitLocker recovery keys on each machine, and again, going back in and deleting this file or pulling down the update, because this BSOD loop is not going to do it. It can't. When a BSOD happens, it's not reaching out to anything for updates. It's reporting and restarting. And hopefully, I haven't experienced this directly, so I haven't been able to get hands on a machine that was affected by this and be able to look and mess around with it. I'm kind of speaking based off of research, and there's no change there. I'm speaking off of research that I have researched or I have seen and research of other people. There's no way for this BSOD to reach out and pull down an update or reversion, right? Revert the update back to its original pre-update features and get it working again. There's no way for it to do that, so it requires boots on the ground. And it's going to be a long road, a long road to recovery for both infrastructures affected by this as well as CrowdStrike and their image. Granted, the fix is already out. I do applaud CrowdStrike for really quickly coming out with an update or a reversion that fixes that. They did do very well on that aspect of it. Unfortunately, because this issue was causing a blue screen of death loop, this update that they came out with is not the most effective solution. Or it is the most effective solution, but it's not a solution that is effective in this current moment, because so many people, because of this blue screen of death, right? So I do give them kudos for very quickly coming to a solution and bringing this solution out. Should have not happened in the first place, but it did, and at this point, all we can do is look forward and recover. So that's about it. I mean, without going into too much technical detail about everything, CrowdStrike's content update created a blue screen of death loop that caused every Windows machine affected to basically become crippled. And this includes infrastructure, government, airlines, airports, banks. I mean, everything. Everything was affected. Healthcare is largely affected. And this is one of the biggest outages that has ever come to light, that we've ever seen. I mean, this was on the scale of what Y2K was estimated to be. For those who don't know Y2K, it was the biggest it was a huge internet outage that was supposed to happen during the year 2000, Y2K, right? So, I mean, this update, this software bug, created one of the largest globally recognized IT outages that has ever been experienced. Now, again, this was a CrowdStrike issue. This is an issue with CrowdStrike as a platform. This was not Microsoft. This was not anything else. This was a CrowdStrike bug. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, is CrowdStrike a Microsoft platform? Is this? Is it this? Is it this? It is a CrowdStrike software bug. It is not an attack. It is not a security breach. It is a bug in a software, which we see all the time. Just happens to be that this one was very widely impacting. So I have to put that out there because I do see a lot of things blaming Microsoft, and admittedly, Microsoft has done a lot of things in the past that have caused people to not necessarily trust them. They are the butt of a lot of jokes. But this was not them. This was CrowdStrike entirely, and how it interacts with the Windows operating system, how it has to interact to do its job effectively. and a software bug that causes major outages. I mean, this bug is ridiculous. I have never seen something this large scale. It's insane. Now, again, that goes back to saying CrowdStrike is one of the largest EDR companies in the world. It's going to impact when something affects its Falcon platform, its EDR platform. It's going to. There's no way around it. There's no way outside of it. It is going to impact a large number of people. This shouldn't have happened, but it did. And we need to all work together to move forward. For those of you who are impacted by this, you know, I completely understand. I have dealt with major outages like this in the past, not to this large scale, but when you talk about in a single company, you know, every company has their own major outage, right? We're seeing the overarching piece, but every company is having their own complete outage. I have dealt with those before on a service desk, as well as some other jobs that I've been in, and it's not fun. It is not fun. The only thing I can say to those people who are actively working on this, I applaud you. I feel for you. Keep drinking your coffee and get rest when you need it, and hit the ground running. I mean, you guys are absolutely resilient for doing something like this. It's insane. I don't think I've, you know, again, I've been in a company-wide outage like this, but I've never seen something to this scale publicly. But that's all I've got. Again, to kind of finalize this, I am by no means an expert. I do this as a passion project for myself, as well as to provide some information or some more insight into people who do not have as much in-depth IT experience as some of the other people in the community are putting information out there for. Some of this information may be incorrect because it's based off of research that I have seen or I have done. If so, please feel free to let me know, and I will be happy to edit it or make any type of corrections that I need to. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day and wonderful week. I do plan on doing more of these every week now that things have started to clear up, and quite frankly, the drive for content creation is back. I lost it there for a while, but it's all back, so we're back to creating content, both on a gaming channel and on this one. And, you know, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I will catch you guys in the next one.